Beavis and Butthead. They're officially back, my mortal friends, with 2 new seasons streaming on Paramount+. And whether you're a longtime fan or new to the franchise, you should definitely check it out because it's pretty good. It might not be exactly what it was 25 years ago, but it's pretty close, and all things considered, I'd say that Judge and the crew have put together something pretty legit for us this time. One thing that works in the show's favor and prevents it from getting stale, despite being contrary to what typically makes characters interesting, is the fact that Beavis and Butthead never change, or at least they barely do. They may have proven to grow somewhat in moments like the car scene of the new movie, but for the most part, they never seem to learn anything or mature in any way, which is why it's always awesome to see how they respond to being placed in a wide variety of different situations. So many scenarios can be made funny just by seeing these 2 numbskulls reacting to their surroundings. And this new season is no different in that sense. Another advantage that works for the show is its lack of continuity. It seems like every show now has a super complex plot with a narrative playing out over multiple episodes in a serial format. Even South Park has had full seasons that were essentially one long continuous story, drastically changing characters along the way and ruining the show in my opinion. But in Beavis and Butthead, each half episode is its own individual self-contained 10-minute story with no connection to any others or even the couch scenes. This probably makes it easier to write since it only requires a quick setup with a basic premise like Beavis and Butthead go to the movies, and then a few funny punchlines. They get their tickets taken by some girls, of course while thinking they're gonna score, then they get locked out of the movie, rained on, and see the girls get taken by some other dudes at the end. It's simple, and from an audience perspective, there's no need for background information in order to understand and enjoy it. All you need to know is Beavis and Butthead are idiots, and this is what these idiots are doing, in order to jump right in and be entertained. Which leads me to believe that under the right circumstances, it should have a decent shot at appealing to a younger generation of new fans and sticking around. Could being exclusive to a platform few have heard of and even fewer have subscribed to be those right circumstances? Probably not. If anything, I'm sure the older fans who are aware of the new episodes and willing to shell out a few bucks for a month of Paramount Plus will see and enjoy them. And the show will probably get dropped again after just the 2 seasons. I don't say that because it's bad or anything, that just seems to be what always happens with these rebooted shows. In hell, I even have a Paramount subscription and I had no idea this show was even coming out, or that it had come out until a week later. So who knows how well they're marketing it. But for those who do watch, if you're anything like me, you won't be tired of these classic characters. Our 2 favorite idiots are again doing many similar things that they were doing back in the 90s. Screwing up in school, screwing up while helping Mr. Anderson, and screwing up while attempting to screw, but never actually screwing. Some of the new storylines in this season are about as close to the old ones as they can be without directly copying them. Escape Room from episode 1, for example, is similar to the date bait episode from season 4, as well as others. Only funny enough, this time the guys don't get ripped off by the girls, they're the ones attempting to rip the girls off, which is a funny twist on the same theme, but the episode still feels fresh due to the funny lines and unique situation in which Beavis and Butthead end up finding themselves. Boxed In from episode 2 is similar to the Pipe of Doom from season 4 in that once again their stupidity gets them stuck in a physically uncomfortable situation. And Roof is another story involving the boys trying to help Mr. Anderson in a new way, but although many of the themes are similar in these episodes, there was the exception of the special one from the first episode where Beavis takes his fire obsession to a whole new level. The story doesn't feature Butthead at all and has a very different vibe from that of a typical one from the show, breaking out of the traditional rules of its universe and including a fantasy element as Beavis verbally interacts with a literal dumpster fire. It's as if he's dreaming or hallucinating, similar to the final judgment of Beavis from season 4 where Beavis meets St. Peter, only in this episode, from start to finish, he's alone in an odd but funny situation with no explanation for why he's there or why fire can talk. Even though this was a little different than pretty much every other Beavis and Butthead sketch, it was a unique story and had me laughing throughout, especially the end, so I had to give this one a thumbs up. And Paramount actually posted this full sketch on YouTube, so you can check it out for yourself if you don't have a Paramount Plus subscription. Mike Judge seems to have done exactly what one would do if trying to successfully reboot an old cartoon today. Don't mess with the formula too much, just do new versions of the same old stuff with the same old style in a new modern way. And that's pretty much what you get with this new season. The opening theme song is essentially a modern updated recording of the same one we know and love. and the title screens now use a more boxy style font with a bit more of a polished look than the old grittier aesthetic we're used to, but it still feels on brand. The only real noticeable difference about the new season, and I mentioned this in my review of the new movie as well, is the general style of the animation, which tends to be a bit distracting at times. The way the characters are illustrated is noticeably different from Mike Judge's signature hand-drawn style, and the new animation seems to be done by a team of people trying to fit Beavis and Butthead into their style of illustrating or animating, rather than trying to adapt for this project and replicate the style of the original. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm willing to forgive the quality a bit since the way they're animating it now is most likely cheaper and faster, and I'm just happy they have any room in the budget at all for these guys. But it would have been icing on the cake if they had really trained some animators to mimic the old style with modern techniques, which might just not be possible within the budget. Maybe I'm asking too much here. The characters all have thicker outline strokes around them, which is forgivable since I assume the reason for the thick outline is because they draw the characters in some sort of program like Adobe Illustrator, and then when they have a close-up shot, they aren't redrawing the character closer up in the scene, they're just enlarging the scene or zooming in on the character, making the outline stroke look larger as well. That's why the characters look more normal from a distance than they do close up, but again, in order to save time and money, this makes sense. What I can't forgive, however, is that the new characters look nothing like the old ones, including looking different from Beavis and Butthead themselves, which makes it look odd placing the two characters beside any new ones, because it feels like you're watching a crossover episode with some generic internet show where everyone is drawn using a stylus on a touchscreen rather than pencil and paper like the original characters all were. Aside from the animation though, the stories are still pretty clever and work well considering the producers have to adapt Beavis and Butthead to the present day, which I think they've done pretty seamlessly. As I mentioned before, there's no continuity, so even though it makes no sense how in the movie, spoiler alert, Beavis and Butthead travel through time and are now in the present day, yet somehow Mr. Van Driesen and Mr. Anderson are also still around doing the same thing at the same age as in the 90s. But only Beavis and Butthead traveled through time, so the other characters obviously should have aged or died over the last 25 years. Maybe they are older, but Mr. Van Driesen just hasn't retired or gone gray yet. I don't know, but it doesn't have to make sense because the show still works and entertains. And as I mentioned in my movie review, I was disappointed that the side characters didn't play a bigger role, so I'm glad that here we have a chance to see them again. It would have been pretty lame to kill them off or change the entire nature of the show just to have continuity with the time travel theme of the movie when it's completely unnecessary. It is kind of funny though how they addressed how time has changed to the present using the plot of the movie, but then left some loose ends that make no sense anyway. It's all good though. I mean, who's really putting that much thought into the canon of these two moronic fart knockers? I'm certainly not. I'm just trying to laugh. A lot of people, including Mike Judge himself, have said that they don't know how well Beavis and Butthead would work in the current time, many claiming that they're a product of their time and wouldn't work today. But Beavis and Butthead do seem to easily fit in the modern world where YouTube and escape rooms exist, and these new episodes are worth about as many laughs as the ones from 25 years ago. And some of these new ideas could have easily even worked back then in the old seasons, which is why the show, the jokes and gags, and the characters themselves are timeless. One negative critique I do have of the new show though is with the channel surfing portions. I think the use of YouTube videos for these scenes was a great idea. The way everyone comments on internet videos these days, why not have Beavis and Butthead's opinions thrown into the mix? The original reaction show. It seems perfect, but I don't feel like they knocked it out of the park here necessarily. I think the reason I didn't dig it for the most part was because they chose bad videos to roast. Half the ones they picked were sorta lame, but the commentary on them still made me laugh at least a little each time, so I guess I shouldn't be complaining. Beavis and Butthead watching ASMR was pretty hilarious, and other videos had their funny moments too. I'd say this concept is an upgrade from when they would watch stuff like Teen Mom and Jersey Shore back in the 2011 reboot, since using random YouTube videos opens the producers up to a much wider variety of content and funnier clips to use, which is better for the wider Beavis and Butthead fan base, which I imagine is mostly millennials and Gen Xers who have no interest in seeing Beavis and Butthead's take on shows that only appeal to teenagers. But they still, in my opinion, didn't use interesting content for the bit this time around. You'd think they would have chosen some better ones. Of all the crazy TikTok compilations and reaction-based channels you see online these days, for the producers to have chosen the videos they did seemed like boomer pics trying to appeal to the wrong audience with uninteresting content that even Beavis and Butthead could barely make funny. No offense to the boomers. The plumber video, for example, was kind of a waste, as was the video of the girl who got accepted to college. The music video parts were pretty good though, and if I'm not looking back at the original Beavis and Butthead with nostalgia goggles on, I feel like there were also many couch segments then that dragged and made me want longer narrative parts with less couch time. So this aspect of the show now doesn't seem to be any better or worse than it ever was. But overall, I'd say the show is definitely worth a watch if you're a fan or just looking for something stupid to laugh at. I know I'm definitely looking forward to each new episode as they're released and anything else these characters bring our way in the near future. So what do you think of the show? The new episodes or the old ones? Have you seen the new season yet? Do you plan on seeing it? Let us all know in the comments, and if you want to check out my review of the new movie or the rest of the channel, you can do that right here. I'll see you there, and until then, live well and take it easy. Later.